Good evening and welcome to the show. Tonight we're diving deep into a story about a movement igniting a firestorm across the country. Forget the distractions, forget the political circus. We're talking about the health of our nation, the health of our children. Welcome to our timeline of the MAHA movement's milestones to date. This is the story of the MAHA movement, a story of hope, a story of change, a story that's just beginning. It all began with a decision that sent shockwaves through the political establishment. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a man known for his unwavering commitment to truth and his fight against corruption, made a move nobody saw coming. He suspended his own campaign for president. Now you might think that's not so unusual. Candidates drop out all the time. But this was different. RFK Jr. didn't just drop out, he endorsed Donald Trump for the White House. Now, I know what you're thinking, Kennedy and Trump. Those are two names you don't usually hear in the same sentence. But this wasn't about politics as usual. This was about something bigger, something more important. This was about joining forces to tackle a threat to our nation more insidious, more pervasive than any foreign power, the chronic disease epidemic ravaging our country. The alarm bells were ringing, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was on Capitol Hill to make sure America heard them. He didn't mince words, he didn't sugarcoat the truth, he laid it all out there. The state of public health in America was dire. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, these weren't just statistics on a page, these were our friends, our neighbors, our children. This was a crisis, a full-blown crisis, and it was time for action, decisive action. And so, the MAHA agenda was born, a bold plan to reclaim the health of the nation. This wasn't about partisan politics, this was about something far more fundamental, the right to a healthy life. The American people were ready for change, they were desperate for change, and they were looking for a leader who would finally stand up and fight for them. The nation held its breath, the votes were cast, the results were in. Donald J. Trump, the outsider, the disruptor, the man who promised to shake things up, was elected the 47th President of the United States. For the MAHA movement, this was a pivotal moment. Could Trump, a man known more for his business acumen than his health policy expertise, deliver on his promise to make America healthy again? The stakes were high, the expectations were even higher. In a move that surprised many, President-elect Trump nominated Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. This was a bold move, a strategic move, a clear signal that Trump was serious about tackling the public health crisis. Kennedy, a renowned environmental activist and a fierce critic of Big Pharma, was a controversial choice, to say the least. But one thing was clear. He was a man who couldn't be bought, a man who wouldn't back down from a fight, a man who would put the health of the American people first. This was a declaration of war against the status quo, a declaration of war against the special interests, a declaration of war against the very forces that had brought our nation to this point. The winds of change were blowing through the halls of Congress. Senator Roger Marshall, a physician from Kansas, a man who had seen the devastating effects of chronic disease firsthand, stepped forward to lead the charge. He launched the Make America Healthy Again caucus, a bipartisan group of lawmakers united by a single purpose: to support the joint mission of President Trump and RFK Jr. to make America healthy again. This wasn't about politics, this was about patriotism, this was about putting the health of the American people above party lines. This was about restoring the promise of a healthy and prosperous future for all Americans. In a stunning victory for public health, the FDA announced a ban on Red 40, a controversial food dye linked to a host of health problems, from hyperactivity in children to cancer. This was a landmark decision, a decision that sent shockwaves through the food industry, a decision that had been years in the making. Finally, the FDA was taking action to protect the American people from the insidious chemicals lurking in our food supply. But this was just the beginning. The food industry, with its deep pockets and its army of lobbyists, wasn't going down without a fight, but the American people, armed with the truth, emboldened by this victory, were ready to stand their ground. It was a crisp January morning in Washington, D.C., a day etched in history, a day that marked the dawn of a new era. Donald J. Trump, hand on the Bible, took the oath of office, becoming the 47th President of the United States. For the MAHA movement, this was it, the moment of truth. Would Trump keep his promise? Would he deliver on his pledge to make America healthy again? The hopes and dreams of millions of Americans rested on his shoulders. The world watched, some with skepticism, some with hope, as Trump prepared to lead America into uncharted territory. The Senate Finance Committee, a room filled with power, a room filled with tension, a room where the fate of nations was decided. This was the stage for RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing, a hearing that would determine whether he would take the helm of the Department of Health and Human Services. All eyes were on Kennedy as he calmly and confidently answered questions about his vision for the agency, his plans to tackle the chronic disease epidemic, his commitment to transparency and accountability. The stakes were high, the pressure was immense, but Kennedy didn't flinch. The attacks were relentless, the accusations were flying, the media was in a frenzy. RFK Jr., a man who had dedicated his life to fighting for the health and well-being of others, was being painted as a radical, an extremist, a danger to public health, but Kennedy refused to be silenced. Standing before the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor and Pensions, he delivered a powerful and passionate defense of his nomination, outlining his vision for a healthier America. The gavel fell, the votes were counted. The announcement echoed through the halls of Congress. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services. It was a victory for the MAHA movement, a victory for the American people, a victory for common sense over corruption, for health over profit. This was a new day for America, a day where the health of the people would finally take precedence over the profits of corporations. The journey ahead would be long, the challenges would be many, but for the first time in a long time there was hope. With a stroke of his pen, President Trump signed an executive order establishing the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission, a commission tasked with investigating the root causes of the chronic disease epidemic that was crippling our nation. The commission, with its mandate to investigate, to expose and to recommend solutions, had the potential to be a game changer, a beacon of hope in a nation desperate for answers. The Arizona state capitol was buzzing, the air thick with anticipation. The Arizona Healthy Schools Act, a bill that dared to challenge the status quo, a bill that put the health of children ahead of the profits of junk food corporations, was on the verge of becoming law. The gavel fell, the votes were counted, and the Arizona Healthy Schools Act was passed, banning ultra-processed foods from being served in public schools. This was a victory for the children of Arizona, a victory for common sense. A victory that sent shockwaves across the nation. The healthcare system, a labyrinth of hidden costs. A system designed to keep patients in the dark, a system ripe for reform. President Trump, a man who knew a thing or two about deal-making, a man who wasn't afraid to take on entrenched interests, was determined to bring transparency to this shadowy world. With another bold stroke of his pen, he signed an executive order directing the departments of the Treasury, Labor, and Health and Human Services to make healthcare prices transparent. In a move that surprised many, Steak and Shake, the beloved American fast food chain, made a bold decision, a decision that put the health of its customers ahead of profits. They announced they were ditching the seed oils, those inflammatory omega-6 laden oils ubiquitous in the fast food industry, and switching to beef tallow for their French fries. RFK Jr., a vocal advocate for healthy fats, applauded Steak and Shake for their leadership, calling it a victory for public health and a sign that the tide is turning against the processed food industry. The MAHA movement is more than just a set of policies, it's a cultural shift, a reawakening to the fundamental right to a healthy life. It's about taking back control of our health, our food, our future. From the halls of Congress to the kitchens of our homes, the message is clear. We are mad as hell, and we aren't going to take it anymore. Stay tuned for more updates on this transformative journey towards a healthier America.